on Coast to Coast AM.
We've got a great healing story. Carnivora in the house. One of those botanicals that is so absolutely so amazing. David, you're a guy that has overcome severe issue. I got to go a different way.
The light bulb went on, and I started to research. I found out it saved Ronald Reagan's life. Yeah, it's a wonderful thing that is bringing me back, and it's been almost 8 years now.
How did you take it? Did you take the liquid? Did you take the capsules?
I was going through the capsules like I couldn't get enough. It made me feel so much better.
How soon after you began taking the capsules, you kind of felt this was going to be a good thing?
6 months, 8 months. I can only tell you one thing. The product works. And it not only works in one way, it works in a whole bunch of different ways because it gives me energy, it gives me vitality, it's giving me my health.
Did you have tests to validate it? And if so, did you then have tests afterwards? The doctors gave you a clean bill.
I am pretty... just a better way. Carnivora has built everything back into my body. It's taken a while, but you know what? It's back there, and I feel it. I can't say enough.
George here. You heard it here first, folks. Many more to come. Call 1-866-836-8735. That's 1-866-836-8735. Or visit carnivora.com. That's carnivora.com. Call now.
For over 75 years, Geico's kept an eye on the future, keeping customers happy with things like 24/7 customer support and emergency roadside service. And to prove it, here's one of our commercials from over 75 years ago.
At Geico, we promise to always find innovative new ways to serve you. In fact, we're so innovative, in 75 years, they'll listen to this old radio commercial and think, wow, they were innovative.
Wow, we are innovative.
Geico, saving people money for over 75 years.
Depend on us for Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie all night long. News Radio 1120 KPNW. Welcome back to Coast. We've got one heck of a program for you tonight. Well, let me introduce Dr. John Dvorak for you, Ph.D. in planetary geophysics from the California Institute of Technology in Pasadena. He's worked for the United States Geological Survey, studying volcanoes, beginning with Mount St. Helens in 1980, and including eruptions in Indonesia and the Hawaiian Islands. He is the author of The Last Volcano, which tells an incredible story. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to have him tell what that incredible story is. John, welcome back, my friend. How are you?
Well, hello, George. It's great to talk to you again.
You too. And nice job on this, by the way. You really did.
Thank you very much.
Pulled out the personality of the professor who died in 1953, didn't he?
That's right. He lived to be 82.
All right. Tell us a little bit about Professor Thomas Jagger.
Well, he's the one who pioneered the modern study of volcanoes. And he was educated at Harvard. He was head of geology at MIT. And in 1912, he gave all that up. And he came out here to the Hawaiian Islands, and he started a science station, a volcano observatory. And he studied volcanoes, traveled the world for 50 years. He had many adventures, but that's not even the most appealing part of him. To me, what was most appealing is that in all of these adventures, he actually found what most people are searching for. He found true love. He found this woman. She was a widowed school teacher from California. She had come out to the Hawaiian Islands to restart her life. And the two of them ran this volcano observatory without pay, studying the eruptions. Their house was right perched on the edge of the crater. They could look toward an active lava lake. And what really attracted me was how incredibly romantic the story was.
It almost sounds like something happening on Pompeii from Mount Vesuvius or something, doesn't it?
That's right. What they had was a house, and they went to bed, and they looked out, and their bedroom was filled up with the glow of the lava.
My gosh. Let's talk a little bit, John, about these volcanoes, because some of them are planet killers, aren't they?
They certainly are able to change the history of a planet. That's for sure, especially the life on the planet.
What's happening today in terms of volcanic activity? And I'll throw in earthquakes, too, because we're concerned about a big one in Southern California. We're concerned about one up near Seattle. We're concerned about the New Madrid Fault. But in terms of volcanoes and earthquakes, what's going on right now? Increasing, decreasing? What's happening?
Well, right now, right this moment, it's a rather quiet time.
That's good. Maybe that's good.
Well, it does change, as you know. The most active volcano in the United States is the one I live on, Kilauea, and I can actually see the glow from my house. Probably one of the most active in the world right now is Etna. It's been pouring out quite a bit of lava ever since August. But at this moment, it's rather quiet, and that is, of course, going to change at some unknown time in the future.
When volcanic activity, John, is quiet, does that mean the pressure is building up and then a big one is imminent?
Well, we would have to look at a specific case. And, of course, one that people look at is in Wyoming, that wonderful park.
The caldera.
That's right, a caldera, an explosive one. It's able to cause some of the largest explosions ever known on the planet at Yellowstone.
That was 600,000 years ago?
The last really huge one was 600,000. There was a very large steam eruption, about 75,000. And so those are very infrequent. But those types of eruptions are possible. The last, of course, really huge blast was the one in the Philippines, and that's been about, that was 1991. So that's some 24 years ago. A huge blast like Pinatubo will occur once or twice or three times a century. And, of course, there are many possibilities happening during the 21st century.
Well, didn't Iceland have one, John, that really disrupted European air traffic?
Yes. And I have to say I cannot pronounce the names of the Icelandic volcanoes. But there was one.
The great part about that is you could say anything you want. Nobody's going to know.
Well, that's right. But they have very, very interesting names. This particular one threw a lot of ash in the air. And in today's world, if you throw a lot of stuff in the atmosphere, it will paralyze the air traffic. And that's what happened to Europe. Planes couldn't fly, and so that really had a big influence on the economy. So even if you don't live within sight of an active volcano, even if you've never stood on one, a vigorous eruption could have a big impact on your life.
Well, and that's part of the problem, too, is when these volcanoes spew, and this ash, let's say, covers the sunlight for who knows how long, that could throw the planet into a huge ice age, a deep freeze, can it?
It certainly can. There's the famous one of the eruption of Tambora, 1816. That's in Indonesia. And that threw so much ash and caused the cooling of the earth that was actually referred to as the year without a summer. The summer of 1817, in July, it snowed in Boston and New York and in parts of Virginia.
In the summer?
In the summertime, it snowed.
My gosh.
It also created quite a bit of a famine in Europe. It was part of the reason that people left New York and headed for the Midwest, hoping for better places to farm. And so, yes, it can cause quite a bit of havoc, and not just in a local area, but throughout the planet.
And there's really not much you can do, is there, John?
No. For a volcanic eruption, there really isn't a great deal that you can do. And you certainly can't even construct things. I mean, as we move over to earthquakes, there are ways of constructing buildings to withstand earthquake shaking. But that's not going to happen with the volcano.
In your opinion, if we were to take a hit from a volcano or a big earthquake, which would you prefer?
Well, that has many answers to it. A volcanic eruption is the most awesome thing which you can imagine. I've seen them. I've seen them up close, and it's the only time that I can say I was truly awed, and I went beyond being scared. It was such a magnificent sight of seeing this rock rise up out of the ground, a molten red rock, thousands and thousands of feet, and just the deafening roar. I mean, I was struck by it.
Now, where you are, Kilauea, that volcano, that volcano has been spewing for how long now?
Well, the current eruption started in January 1983.
83.
And it has been slowly pouring out lava.
32 years.
That's right. But the rate of lava production has not been very high compared to, let's say, Etna or the nearby wood of Mauna Loa. It's also been going for most of the time into the national park. Now, you might remember a year ago, it was heading toward one of the communities here.
That's right.
And there was certainly a great deal of concern and a lot of discussion and a great deal of response from Red Cross, the Civil Defense, and so forth as to the progress of the lava. And it came up. It did take one building, and it came within maybe 100 feet of a main highway, and then it stopped.
But it's still spewing. So when you say it stopped, what did it do? Change direction? Go somewhere else?
That's exactly right. This particular lava flow stopped, and then the plumbing system apparently sort of clogged up. And up at the summit of the volcano, we actually, the crater actually filled with lava and overflowed. And for about 3 weeks, it was just shoulder-to-shoulder people watching this fantastic display of molten lava fountaining and flowing in the crater.
Why doesn't it stop?
Well, it doesn't stop because, well, on the simple question is, this is all part of the Earth trying to cool down. The Earth is hot inside.
Right.
And so the reason we have mountains building, the reason we have eruptions, the reason we have earthquakes, is that's the heat getting released out of the planet.
It's like a pressure cooker.
Well, that's right. It's hot inside, and hot things cool down, and this is how the planet Earth cools down.
Well, if anybody's cooked something that has any kind of consistency to it, and you start to boil it, you can see small craters, almost volcano size, popping up from whatever you're cooking.
That's right.
Same
many
thing.
people make an analogy with things like oatmeal.
That's right.
And you watch oatmeal bubble and boil and burst, and little craters form, and sometimes even little mounds form.
But now, what creates the explosion?
Well, the explosions, and this is going back with our friend in my book, Professor Jagger. When he started 100 years ago, people didn't even know why volcanoes erupted or exploded. And he was one of those who answered the question, why? And that's because there's gas in the molten material itself, in the magma. And when it's inside the Earth, it's dissolved inside the liquid. And then as it rises and gets to lower pressure, the bubbles start to form. It's just like a bottle of champagne.
Okay.
It's